Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the Boomer Talk podcast. My name is Jordan. You might know me as One Up. My co-host is Taylor, aka Somebody's Gun. And this week we have a new guest. He's known as the mythic Somebody's Gun to some of the community.
To three of the community.
ReissHub, thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
So on the topic of mythic Somebody's Gun, let's talk about Fortnite content in the competitive community. Obviously, Reiss does a great job of providing high quality in-depth content. But to be honest, I feel that there aren't enough content creators in the community that provide high quality content. And I feel like the people who do, especially yourself, don't exactly get the viewership or the following that it deserves. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, firstly, thank you for saying so much good stuff about my content.
Yeah.
Obviously. I'll pat that down and say, hell yeah, definitely. But I mean, there's so many branches that you can go with that on why that doesn't get picked up so much. But it's it really depends first where you're posting it. Because if you're talking obviously I spend a lot of time on Reddit and a lot of my content goes on there, and it's Reddit is very much so, if it's not a picture or a meme or a sentence that's a complaint in 2 sentences, then it's not going to get 1,000 upvotes. It's not going to get 2,000 upvotes. It'll get a couple hundred maybe, and at the best of that, it's that's good, and that's good sometimes. I remember there's some videos I've posted where I'm I know this will get 200 upvotes on Reddit, and I feel so proud of the content, and I feel like it's good and stuff, and everyone that watches it kind of says the same. So I'm that's great. But then on the same post as that, you post that kind of stuff on YouTube, and the comments are overwhelmingly positive. It's amazing. I'm this is great. This feels so good. But that's why I think there is a market for that kind of thing. But I don't think the quality is the problem. I think the main problem is duration on the majority of these things, because time investment, especially when you come to we'll say Reddit, for example. One up, you could make a fantastic, very well detailed post, but if it's 20 minutes of reading, 50 minutes of reading, the majority of people, even though there's amazing content within there, will look at it and just be oh, I can't be bothered to read that.
Yeah.
They just go, oh, that's too much time investment to completely better myself and have fantastic information, learn something really new about it. So it's I always feel the high quality side of things isn't much of an issue, because there is a lot of high quality content out there, but it's just people don't want to watch it because it's long. And that's actually the main reason why I don't put videos out that are an hour or 10 to 20, 10 minutes max, pretty much, because people just don't care.
Yeah.
It's I think that's why people, at least some people, have started to enjoy that, where it's just shush for boo, go away, Mo. That's where it comes to the point where people are just at least thankful that there's content that's under 10 minutes long. They're oh, thank God. I think some of that, I know I've just ranted for about 10 minutes and I can keep going, but there's people like Bala can put out content that's an hour long, and people watch it. But if I put an hour-long video out, it would be the worst video anyone's ever watched in their life. It would be horrible. So it's some people can take it off, but I think the majority of people just aren't interested in it in general.
But it's interesting to me because, to some extent, you need to have length in order to get in-depth content, right? If you're trying to improve yourself, that can't just be said in 240 characters, whatever it is. No. You need improving yourself takes time, right? And so a video that tells you how to improve yourself is going to take time. And for the casual community, I would expect it to be like you just said, where people don't really want to watch anything longer than even 5 minutes, probably. They have a pretty short attention span. They're just looking for entertainment. But for a competitive community where the players legitimately care about the game, they legitimately care about improving themselves, I would expect that attention span and that willingness to take the time to consume in-depth content. I would expect it to be a little bit more.
See, that's where I'm very glad you said a competitive community, because I've been around for a while and I've seen the average person, right? I know what the average person is by now. My theory is, in all honesty, that people are not it's not a competitive community. The majority of people, right? The people who are competing at the high level, yes, but like, how many people would you speak to who aren't like well ranked that are actually competitive fans? Like, a perfect example of competitive fan, I would say, was a guy like Ulrich, right? He knows all this about all these pros. You know, it's like watching a sportsman who knows all about their favorite teams. They know the players and they know all the guys in the other teams. But it's like, how many people do you know that are like that about Fortnite competitive? It's like, it's so little. You know, they'll know their favorite players, and that's it. They'll know favorite players. I want to go watch Benji Fish stream. His fish, obviously, stream's amazing, but that's another point. And it's like, you know, they know like their favorite players, and that's it. They don't have like a huge investment in their competitive community. I learned this when I tried to do a recap series on the FNCS Invitational. No one cared. It was, it was like, you know, it's like the videos I thought were really good, but it's like no one really cares about that kind of the actual competitive side. I always just had the theory that it was like people enjoyed the game, they liked the mechanics at some point, and they just like competing is really the only thing left, and they like the chance that they can win money and be good at it. And I feel like so many people are stuck in that loop. So it's like it becomes difficult when people are like, why, like aren't watching huge videos to put kind of lots of time into it. It's just because they're not really a fan of competitive, quote unquote.
Yeah, that's true. And even when you talk about casual players and their favorite players, most of their favorite players aren't even really competitive players. They're just kind of streamers like Cypher PK or I don't know, whoever else streams and doesn't really play much competitively.
Yep.
So you're definitely right on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like I'm just putting that. Obviously, that doesn't take every single person into it. It's just like there's a lot of people out there who are just trying to play and like enjoy the competitive side, but they're not really competitive fans. So it's like watching competitive content straight up. You have to kind of try and market it towards that audience of people who are just like, I just want to watch something entertaining and learn a bit, you know?
Yeah,
so
that's true.
It's like the majority of content out there, like it saddens me when I'm on Reddit and sometimes, and I see so many good posts that just go straight under and hidden. You know, I always try to upvote. I'm one person though. You know, I can upvote a post as much as I like, but I'm one person to do it. So, you know, even Taylor's posts, his daily news posts, they're probably the best posts on the sub right now. And
thank you.
We have discussed this as the mod team, saying how great they are and that they're the best posts. So take that as some credit. But on the same side of that, it's like, how many upvotes do they get on average? Would you say?
30 to 60. I don't think any have gotten over 100.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like that's exactly the point that I make. Like, you are writing hugely competitive stuff, like really good information, yet it's like it's not picking up that much because I would imagine the average person isn't that interested in the news, which, you know, that's why the people who are upvoting are probably like, yes, finally some actual competitive content. Let's go.
Well, and I think on Reddit, a lot of the actual competitive people have kind of been silent.
Oh yeah,
because there's been a lot of people like Balla used to post on there all the time, and he's kind of backed up. And there's people that like actually know the game and used to provide quality content that just every time they post something, there's like one little piece of a video that someone decides to shit on, or they're just like, oh, dude, Balla's hair looks funny, haha. And it makes no sense towards like what you're actually providing. And I think you probably see this on your videos. Like, people just love to troll and shit on stuff. So then the people that actually care about competitive and want to provide that content kind of get pushed out because they're like, why do I want to do this? And this is probably more specific to the competitive subreddit. But
yeah,
even on Twitter, I know OneUp absolutely hates this, but you could spend like 5 hours putting together like the best thing ever, and it does squat. But you post a picture of the map and then a screenshot of in-game, say how do you rotate, you get 2,000 likes and 100 retweets. Like, what the fuck is that? It makes no sense, but for some reason, like, that's what people want. They want quickly consumable, they want to argue with people in the comments. Like, you need to create a discussion, I guess, in order to actually generate interest. And maybe that's just the world we live in nowadays. But
and it has to be 30 seconds or less. That's it.
Yeah.
And it's like, sorry, go ahead, Taylor. Not to. Go ahead, Jordan.
No, I was just gonna say, like, the problem is that it puts incentives where they shouldn't be. So it changes the content that people even wind up producing in the first place. So I know for myself, like certain things that could take 12 hours to produce or whatever, and it gets, however many reaches, however many likes. And then I take something that takes so much less time and it's so much more simple and a lot less value to people, but for some reason they just like it more because it like toots the horn of Benji and Mongrel or whatever it is. I'm more incentivized to post like that kind of like crappy simple content that takes me 5 minutes to make versus something that takes me 12 hours to make, but that does provide value, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And I feel like we've seen the product of that in the community, because who wants to spend 12 hours on something when they could spend 5 minutes on it and it performs better, right? Like,
yeah.
So I don't know. I guess my question is like, how do we get to a place where the community incentivizes high quality content more than it currently does?
Good question. You don't. So no, I mean, you can provide higher quality content, but I feel like you have to know your audience. Like, I feel like, all of us here, at least at this point, understand who we're putting videos out to now. Like, we put out content for long enough. We've discussed it even today of how many people are watching the videos that we do on this topic and how many are doing it this one. So it's like, I feel like higher quality content will end up just being forced to be shorter. And it's like, that sucks, because a lot of longer content is fantastic and it's absolutely almost necessary to do it, but you have to chop so much out. Like I did VOD review of every game of every series of the FNCS Invitational. It's 574 games, and I put it into 15 minutes. That could have been out like 3 hour long video, but it's like no one's gonna watch that. So like you have to definitely choose your lengths of videos, we'll say, if you're gonna do videos. And like particularly for someone like Jordan, who does a lot of like more analytically stuff, it's more about the presentation, I would say, for that, because you can just probably display a lot of the information in an infograph. Like Arcane's been doing a lot, and he's been picking up a lot of positive stuff on Reddit and on Twitter from a lot of that, just posting an image. But there's a lot of that kind of 12 hours workload that goes into it, but you can manage to formulate that into like one picture, and up there it goes. Just, I mean, you're never gonna, the average, I don't want to say what the average player of age of the Fortnite player is, but it's obviously lower than our boomer age right now. So it's like, you got to know who you're making content for, fundamentally. And if you look at, every time I open it, I said this earlier actually when I was chatting on Discord, I said, there's a bunch of people who I've never heard of who I'll open their YouTube, and it's like they have 1 million subscribers and they make Fortnite content. I'm like, I wonder what their content's like, and it's just screaming and zooms and it's just quick edits and really horrible memes, and I'm like, every video gets 1 million views, and I'm like, well, that's not high quality content to me. A lot of people would disagree with that, clearly, but it's like, at that point you go, maybe this is the direction you need to go, but try and fit all of your information into that at some point. We're just too old to understand.
And Reiss, I think we talked about this the other day, but you have to position yourself to where you're actually posting for a casual audience. Yeah. Like trying to capture the small niche of the competitive audience is just not going to happen. And I think you have been able to do that well, kind of transition between the competitive and casual to make it work for both sides, so that there's value in both communities. And just kind of switching gears before we get off this topic, I know OneUp has thrown this out there, but a lot of the VOD reviews that are done are of the best players, and that helps almost nobody besides the other best players. Like, I might be able to pick up 1 or 2 things that I could possibly implement into my game watching Benji, Letchi, and Savage. But realistically, I am nowhere near as good as these guys. Like, not even close to the same level. And watching them play is just simply not going to help me whatsoever. But if you make videos on people that are, finishing 100th or outside of the top 500, let's say, where most people are, no one's going to watch that. No one cares. So
well, it depends how you market it, though. There's quite a big to that, because I did one video which was how this team came last in when was that one of the FNCS Duo weeks, and that did really well. But it's because the mistakes were so simple, where it's like, I think it was duos, maybe it was trios. I think it was duos at that point, but it was just like, these guys died for reasons that were so simple. It's like they let one of the guys flank them. They weren't aggressive enough, whatever it was. Can't remember, it was a while ago, but people liked that kind of video. But it was like, the thing is, they were pros and had pro names in the title, so like obviously that's going to get people's attention. But it's like, how often does a pro do like so badly that you can really track it like that? If you're going to do someone who's in like the 500th, like a viewer of Audrey, for example, definitely not going to get anywhere near as much content as Bench Fishy. Even though every time I put in my title, it doesn't get good clicks. So like, what the hell? Who would I got to put in there? Oh.
All right, let's move on to the second topic. Then let's talk about, this is a completely different topic from what we were just talking about, but let's talk about the importance of building team chemistry. Taylor.
All right, so I guess I'll start us off, but I think we've seen that that's more important than anything. Whether it be like, the larger the team mode gets, the more important the chemistry is, simply because the communication gets so much more jumbled, and knowing how your teammates play and how to play off of them is going to be so much more effective than trying to communicate that through words. Because with two other people, or let's even say squads, during a fight, there could be so many comms being thrown out there, and that's just not actually going to be heard if everyone's trying to communicate at the same time. But if you understand, what you need to communicate, keep it short, simple, to the point. Understand, Reiss wants to do this, Jordan wants to do this. This is how I can play off them. This is how we're going to develop fights and try and play end game, late game, whatever it may be. That's so much more effective to me than being a super high skilled player. Obviously, if you're amazingly skilled, that's going to help you, right? It's going to be easier to play the game, but it doesn't make it easier for you to work with teammates. You could be the best player in the world, but you could be a terrible teammate. And that's honestly, watching Benji, Savage, and Leshy, seeing Savage take a support role, the best thing that they could have ever done. He's maybe the most skilled player on that team, and him taking a support role to help those two frag the fuck out has absolutely skyrocketed this team, because he's so freaking good at it. He's absolutely taken on that support role and pushed his teammate and that trio even further than I honestly could have thought that they could have gone. So there's my little rant about team chemistry. What are you thinking, Reiss or Jordan?
Well, I'll butt in purely because Aaron, who's my duo or my trio, has said Reiss is going to have a field day on me, and I will 100% have a field day on him. But it's like building like team chemistry is, I think you actually kind of nailed it, to be honest, where you'd said knowing what they're going to do is much more important than actually just like talking about it. Where it's like, the most recent video I did covered guys down in OCE and like Gubos, Worthy, and Jinx. I've never watched Worthy before, right? But he is insane. He's just one of the most nuts like players I've ever watched. And I spoke to Gubos, and he was like, yeah, he wins 99% of his engagements, right? So it's like, you take a guy like that who is going to win so many fights over and over again, and sure, like, he's good. But if he didn't play as a team player, then he'll win his individual fights. But as soon as it comes like a 2v1, like 1v2, 2v1, it's like that's over. It's like, what's going to happen there? But it's like, because they work so well together as a trio, like, that's just, they're going to be successful. They're going to work out. And it's like, trying to understand your teammates' play styles and who is better at what, it's just going to inevitably make you a better team. Where it's like, if you have a guy who's consistently getting more kills, give him the weapons that help him get more kills. There's a lot of pros who talk about roles. They're like, we don't have roles. I don't like this. We just do our thing, blah, blah. It's like, there's no way that one person doesn't do some stuff better than others, so you rely on them. There's no way. It's not like it comes to endgame and you're just like, well, who's going to tarp?
Like, they may not actually state them, but they have freaking roles that they're playing.
Yeah, and it's not concrete. It's not like, oh, I am 100% fragger. I will never tunnel. It's never as like concrete as this kind of stuff. but it's like fundamentally, you need to have roles at some point because some people are better than others. And if you don't, then you're just dumb. It's like you're not going to be doing anything efficiently. So it's like you understand who's good at what. Aaron's good at nothing, and then you just decide who is going to do those things immediately, and then they take off. It's like Boo is our guy who tunnels because he just gets ahead and does it, and that's it. Fine. He's the guy who plays keyboard and mouse. We play controller. We suck. So he's just going to get ahead and cool. We're going to stay at the back. We're going to do stuff. I'll stay in the middle. Aaron gets more kills, so he can just stay at the back and get it. And it's like, we're not a great team, but we already have that in the end game. And as soon as we get moving in obviously just normal scrims, we're not talking pro scrims or anything. Like we're top 3, top 1 nearly every game. If we get to moving, that is. So it's like just already not having great players have like good synergy in that particular situation. It's like straight away. You become instantly more successful. And I think like it kind of annoyed me when I'm reading tweets of people going like, oh, we don't have roles. It's like, you do. You just don't. You just not thought like you're too good to think about it that way, but you just do have roles somewhere.
Yeah, and to kind of like I guess tie in the topic we just talked about before, that's not something that viewers or like the competitive audience necessarily even really wants to think about or like learn about. They want to learn how to like shit on somebody and call them a bot, and then that's that, because they see like Unknown Army go and Kanata in a duos cup go and take separate 1v1s against another duo and shit on them, and then run to the next duo that they're gonna fight, and they see that like that's what they want to do. They don't care about like playing as a duo and playing strategically basically. So it's related to what we just talked about before. And I think like, yeah, I don't know. I guess my question is like, how do we get people to care about that more? Because if we get players to care about strategy more, like that improves the level of play in the game.
Yeah, I think we're too far past that, in all honesty. There's a thing like I feel like when you used to play cash cups a long time ago, there was no prize pool. Everyone was really excited to get points. The games weren't that stacked. We're talking like a year ago, before World Cup, before there's all the big prize pools. And like prize pools is not what ruins like unstacked tournaments. It does, in my opinion, I'll say that. I think obviously having a big prize pool will 100% make tournaments stacked. But like a tournament should be stacked just from there being tournaments, because people should want to do well. Mm-hmm. But again, that links back to what I said earlier. People don't care about doing well because they're not competitive, quote unquote. They're not that interested in like getting new high scores and however many points they had. They're just interested about getting into the money. That's it, done. So it's like people to care about strategy is probably not going to happen because everyone's just too interested in fighting and wanting to W key. One of the worst things that happened was Unknown Army's rise, because everyone started realizing how valuable W keying was. And then I honestly think since people realized that, it's been a downward spiral ever since in terms of actual competitive strategy, because they're like, well, this guy just kills everyone. Maybe we should try that. But they're not good enough to do that, but they still try it anyway,
Yeah, and that's the biggest point we just touched upon, is that like Unknown and Kanata could do that, but you other people who act like you could do that, like probably can't, and you're legitimately not reaching your full potential by not working on team strategy and not working on teamwork. I saw Kinch in chat just asked, he's wondering where pros actually get quality discussion, because chat amongst pros seems to just be a load of rubbish. And like I guess I personally assume that just comes from like their coaches. I feel like coaches generally act like a grounding force to pros, but like I could be wrong. Like maybe they just talk about shitting on other players all the time, and that's it. Like,
well, as a non-pro and someone who has no daily interaction with any pro players at all, I feel qualified to speak on this. No, I have absolutely no idea. I'm guessing they may. I don't know. To be honest, Bella would probably be better source of information in the chat. But maybe they're just. It would be hard to guess. Some of them have really good strategy, so there's no way that they don't discuss that within themselves. There's just like unless that's just all luck, that they all just feel that this is what they need to do at every step of every movement. But like if you VOD review some people's, their strategy is so good, so they're obviously figuring out and discussing it. Maybe it's just between the team, maybe it's between like their friends groups or whatever. But like I don't feel like the majority of pros even need. I don't want to say need to talk about it as much as we do, because obviously we're interested in a more nerdy way than they are. They're being successful and getting more money out of it. But it's like I know I have a feeling of a complete guess that they wouldn't discuss it in the length that we would.
Well, and I think the people that probably would. So like I'm thinking Zate, Saf, like those two. They don't put any content out for us to have any idea. So the only strategy we can get is from watching the in-game VODs, which don't include any communication, and we have to almost guess what their strategy is. But watching these guys and seeing how consistently successful they are, there's no way they just go into a tournament like, all right, yeah, we're gonna land here. Probably just W key a couple teams and then we'll post up middle of zone and we're chilling, right? Like there's obviously discussion that goes on there, but again, we're all just kind of guessing. I have no idea what the actual level of that discussion is. So
they're not openly discussing it on Twitter. Let's put it that way.
Well, and Zate,
why would they?
And Zate even says that he doesn't VOD review though.
I was gonna say that, sorry, continue.
So there's also even like an aspect of it's not cool to like talk about strategy or talk about like VOD reviewing because like Zate is so good that he could shit on everybody and win tournaments and he doesn't even have to VOD review. So I want to be as cool as Zate. I want to do that. Like I don't want to have to sit around for hours and watch my gameplay back. Like I don't know.
One caveat to his statement was that he goes into replay every now and then, though, afterwards. That was always the bet, just to check how I died there. I'm sure there's someone said at one point where it's like, oh, I'll quickly nip back in. It's like, that won't count as a VOD review, but it's like, I died, so how did I die? Let's go check it quickly. And like, that's essentially the same thing, because it's like, how much is he going to benefit from a VOD review? Not a lot. He knows what's going on. He's played these hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. It's like he's not going to sit for 3 hours and go, how did I die this time? He'll die and he'll know exactly what he did wrong, or it'll be a quick check. Okay, there we go. That's what I did. It's like VOD reviewing is great for people who don't know anything, and it's like I always say that like your gameplay should show you where you're wrong, and VOD reviewing should give you some of those answers if you can't figure them out. But like that's it. That's it.
You're stepping on Taylor's bag here.
Whoa, it's okay. People love to come on here and hurt my bag.
I won't say anything.
It's all good. It's all chemistry important. If you can play as a trio, and like I was talking about this on stream the other day, if you don't even have to say words and your teammates already know how to help you, that is like the best you could ever be. If 100%. You can just play the game without actually communicating, but you've played so many times, you can just play on this level. Like that is perfect, thriving trio, squad, whatever it may be. So I'll just leave it at that. Move on.
Hell yeah.
Unless you want to.
I was going to say one last point. Now, like 100% what you just said about not having to communicate as much, because that like communication is great, but there's only a limited amount of stuff that you could say while you're in game, while you're trying to focus on fighting and other things going on. And so I always think about when I played ice hockey, because when you're playing hockey, you're on a line with two other players if you're a forward, and you have like these 45-second shifts. So it's kind of like you're playing trios with two other players on the ice, and you can't really talk that much. There are very few things that you could say when you're playing. So if you want to be good as a line, you have to be able to like know where your teammates are surrounding you without even talking about it. So if like you're going into the corner for the puck, you need to know like without even having to look around where your teammates are going to be, so that you could like swing around and pass to them, stuff like that. And this is like a simplified version of it, but like this happens in all their sports, and video games. You may have a little bit more communication during the play because, you have headsets on, so you could talk directly to your teammates. But there's only so much you could talk about when all this stuff is going on. So being able to interact and to know how your teammate is going to act in a certain situation is so important, because that can inform you for how you should be acting around them.
Yeah, no words isn't great unless you know what they're doing. Too many words is just equally the same. It's actually almost worse. Then you can't hear game audio. So you just getting the good balance definitely right. But like you said, that takes not way too long, but it takes a long time to kind of build that chemistry up with your team.
Yeah, but in my opinion, like, it's well worth that time.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Like more like Taylor said at the start. The more people, the more teamwork works. Like, I'm sure there was some people in squads who did really well, who's just mechanics and overall fighting were just garbage. Like, I'm sure there were people out there that did well in squads just because they may have been crap at those elements, but their teamwork strategy was so good at the same time.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the final topic, which is... Wait, somebody's... Yeah, okay. No, somebody's like name was above where the words were, so I couldn't read it.
Oh, my bad.
You're good. Let's talk about Epic, and their policy this season of testing items before they get put into competitive. So we already talked about last week about Epic announcing this, and then this week they added the portable upgrade benches just right into the game. So what's going on there? Are they doing it? Are they not? Like, what's going on?
You used the word policy. I think that was a bit of a bold statement, just put it lightly. You know, I really like the idea that they have 2 weeks to say, okay, does this work? Does this not? Correct me if I'm wrong. I think the portable has been taken out since, because I played it. I've just thought I played a bunch today and I didn't see it once. So I think it was pretty common. So that may have been taken out since, but maybe it's just because it was bugged because you couldn't run through it. But like, the idea is great, where you go, how does this play out in pubs? What's the general consensus? I wish there was, like, maybe they are behind the scenes, but I wish there was a place where they could actually get feedback from the pros, be it the NAE's practice or Elite server, where I'm sure they have discussion about something, or just any contact with any high-level pros at some point to say, would this work? What's the general feedback? Because that's kind of my worry about this system, is to go 2 weeks, how would this play in competitive? But where are they getting that feedback from?
There was a place for that. It currently is non-existent. A few months ago, there was discussion being had. Remember, like, last year we had a bunch of players fly out to Epic and speak to them about the game. Like, so there was that discussion. As far as I know, that discussion has kind of fallen off.
But that's not so good. But well, that's what I mean, though. Like, how do they decide what is good and what isn't? Because is it based off the fact that people make complaint posts on Reddit being like, I think this would be rubbish? Is it Twitter? Is it their in-game feedback, which no one seems to know how that really works, or if it really ticks the boxes properly? That it's just one of those things that I like the idea, but is it actually going to work? Are they going to do it right?
And even testing it in casual modes for 2 weeks, casual modes are not a good indicator of how it's going to play out in competitive. So even though, like, the idea of testing it before it's actually put in the game is great, as you said, the idea of testing out in casual doesn't really make sense. Like, in my opinion, it should be you test it out in arena, or you test it out in some sort of scrims if you could, make a deal with a scrim organizer. And then 2 weeks after that, it could appear in tournaments. Like tournaments shouldn't just be whatever is in arena. Tournaments should have a lag of 2 weeks after stuff that's added to arena, right? Because you don't want things that are just added into arena today to also appear in the tournament today.
Well, Levin says it perfectly. Imagine they had test events. Imagine there was that test. I think there's been 2 test events for the AIM a long, long time ago, where I could be wrong, but they did like 2 different Bloom tests at some point. That was a long time ago, like a year and a half, maybe even 2 years ago. But it's like, I don't understand why that doesn't happen consistently. Have like a Wednesday, something like that. Get a bunch of people in, put some item in. How does it feel? Like you made a good point about casual isn't a good example of it. because they've had crash pads in for how long from last season, and they've obviously put them into competitive this time. But like now, people are starting to figure out how to use them. I'm not going to say they're broken or anything because I don't think it's true at all. But it's like, what if that item was broken, but we just didn't know it was broken because it was only in casual modes at the time? Where it's, there's a lot of cool strategies you can use with it, but now people are only starting to figure that out so much later because no one of the competitive mindset was really playing pubs to test out the pads at that point. So.
Yeah. Like if you think about grenades, it's the same way. Like people weren't measuring 65 meters in casual, but you put that in competitive, people are going to figure it out, and it's going to become broken.
It's one of those things where it's like, why is all this stuff back? I know it's gonna annoy me, but like, you start a new season. I understand putting everything in. I said that from the start. They're gonna put a bunch of crap in, fine. But are we not 2 weeks on now? Is this 2 weeks past?
I think it is. Yeah.
So that's kind of my worry, because I'm like, they said it's gonna be in for 2 weeks. We're over 2 weeks now. We still have P90s. I still die to them 50% of my games. I still have to clip every death and not upload it to Twitter because I'm annoyed at the fact that I've died to hundreds of SMGs. It's like all on last season was people complaining about SMG spray. There's been a 2 week gap. SMG spray is still stupid. It's like 2 week testing periods.
To be fair, they did turn it down a little bit. They tuned it down a little bit.
The clips from today I have say otherwise.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just saying. It looks like they did try and nerf it a little bit. Maybe not be. It's not sufficient, but they're at least trying. And the same goes for aim assist. But
yes,
definitely. I think the most frustrating part of them adding the benches straight into the game, for me, was it's only completely new items are gonna get this fucking 2 week period. They can throw any iteration of an old item into the game as long as it was in the game at some point, and it doesn't count as a new item and can bypass that 2 week period that they said it would get testing done. Because to me, the benches were part of the map. They weren't an item. Like, until this patch yesterday, there was no actual item. It was literally just a thing on the map that you could walk up to. And now it's an item that can now be placed, is indestructible at certain points, and has little to no effect on, like, I shouldn't say the actual game, but like, why do we need to put this right in the game? Like, what does that actually add? So my biggest fear is, I know we probably all want shockwaves in tournaments or shockwaves in arena or impulses. I don't know. People like say they want these things, right?
Jesus.
Well, okay, relax. But like, people say they want certain items put back in the game, right?
Yeah.
And cool. All right, that's good if we get the items we want. But if we get old items, let's say we get the drum shotgun or the double barrel, or we get the quad launcher put right back into the game, and DreamHack starts in almost 2 weeks, right? And they go ahead, Dynamite were in the game before. Dynamite right before DreamHack. Let's go. It's already been tested. Good luck playing with Dynamite during DreamHack. Thank you, guys. We tested this.
Personally, I want the Infinity Blade back, so let's just bypass the 2 weeks for that.
I feel like they should have a test tournament that's everything that's vaulted, just unvaulted, and everything that's unvaulted, just vault it. Just like total meme, have like no prize pool or something where it'd just be like boom boxes, dynamite, rifts, junk rifts, just the worst. It'd be the worst.
That's
but like,
so
because
much
it would be
nonsense.
so shit, everyone would enjoy it. It's like, we're like, oh, this isn't the game, thank God, but at least we can have some fun with these stupid items. Yeah, because I think that would be fun to do, but it would be like, it'd be a bit of a meme. But instead, they're just going to put that in normal tournaments.
Yeah, and my last thing on this topic is, I don't even know if it's relevant now, but aim assist was I don't know if it was actually buffed yesterday. Do you guys know? Doesn't feel it. I don't feel it either.
I feel like
this is why I hate Twitter. Yeah.
I think it was just a impression farm. But in the case that they did want to buff aim assist or change it in the future, it could even be a nerf. How are they gonna test that? Like that, they're not gonna test that. It's just gonna go straight into competitive, right? Because most of casual players that play in casual game mode are console players, which hasn't even been changed, the aim assist, at all. So does that qualify as something that needs to be tested in casual modes for 2 weeks? I don't think it does. I don't think it would. And that has like a massive impact on the game.
Stop fucking with my aim. Like, stop, bro. I've changed my sense more in these past 2 months than I have like in the last 2 or 3 years of playing Fortnite. And I know Jordan feels the same way. Like, stop, bro. Like, that's how I play this fucking game. So either like give me aim assist or take it away. Like, I'm tired of this shit.
Yeah, it changing over and over again is so annoying. I mean, I've been playing keyboard and mouse lately, trying to pick it up because I'm just bored of like trying to. I was shit when when controller was OP, so like I'm worse now. so it's like my aim was already rubbish, and now it's even worse. So I've just been learning keyboard and mouse. But it's like, it is that kind of thing where even if you put it in casual, if you nerfed it or buffed it, put it in casual, it's like, who's gonna test that?
Yeah.
Like, you're not gonna have Scoped or any of these or Lechy, Wolfies. None of these guys are gonna play pubs for a week just to try and feel what it's like to give feedback. It's just gonna, like I said, it's just gonna go straight into Arena, see what it's like. To be honest, I think it's at a good point now where, like, it's definitely worse than keyboard and mouse, and I always thought that's how it should be, you know, personal opinion. But I always felt like now it may be a little bit more on range, because right now it feels kind of rubbish there, but like close range, it doesn't feel bad at all. I'm constantly getting shit on by keyboard and mouse players in close range aim battles, and I'm like, I am not a good controller player, and I'm losing to people better than me. Like, that's good. That's the balance that it should be. You know?
I like that.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything else on this topic?
Stop giving us half truths.
Yeah.
Epic, if you guys listen to us, like, don't just say something if you're not actually gonna follow up with it. You know, like, if you're going to put out a statement, stick to it. We will deal with whatever the consequences of that statement are. But, like, don't just give us communication for no reason when you're not even going to follow through with it come next patch.
Yeah, that's honestly just wild to me. That it took them exactly 1 week to go back on what they said.
I mean, how many days, not even a week, was it for when they said we're not going to do any competitions last season? And then it was like, well, here's daily cups, here's cash cups, platform cash cups, FNCS Invitational. You know, it was like, clearly someone wants to do some sort of communication somewhere, but there's clearly a blockade within their company that's like not allowing them to talk about whatever it is, which is a shame. It really is, because like even the new patch notes don't make sense to me, because you know, when you get a creator code, you get emailed them. So I get emailed usually at a stupid time of night, so I see them when I wake up in the morning, and it's like there's like a list of 4 things. Okay, cool, yeah. I know 4 things, but then like you can look at the community patch notes and there's 50, 20, 30 items that are there, and you're like, why did I not do this? We want money. He has a weapon, watch out. But yeah, that's just one of those things that's annoying.
All right, let's move on to the rapid fire wrap up questions. So we got 3 of those, and then we'll take some questions from chat to finish it off. So the first one is, what's the best thing that was previously in the game that people complained about at the time but would love if it came back?
Ooh. I'm going to go with the silenced SMG, because at the time, and also it's the only thing I can think of, at the time it was, people always complain about SMGs anyway, you know, throughout this game's whole history, people have complained about SMGs just because of their huge DPS, and obviously legacy aim assist at the time as well. And people complained at the time, it left, and obviously we got an even worse one. So we're at a positive now. If we switched them out, we'd be at a much better state, or it would be much better if it came back than the current that we have.
Taylor?
I mean, probably combat shotguns. Like, you see people calling for combat shotguns to come back.
I think that's, but I feel like once they came back, people would start complaining about them again. is my
People
opinion.
forget that combat shotguns were only good if you had a combat shotgun. It's like if you didn't have a combat shotgun in that meta, you're fucked. Like you have a pump, what are you gonna do? They're like 2 tiles away, they hit you so much harder. They're in close range, they can hit you faster. It's like you could not fight a combat unless you had a combat. So it's made it so RNG at that point. Where it's like there was one meta and it was having a combat shotgun and that's it. It was the worst shotgun meta, in my opinion. People only like it because it was like World Cup. There's all these stacked games. They had really good nostalgia about it. But that, like, I've used that gun in creative a few times on the BHE map, and it just rips everyone. There's just nothing you can do against it. It's just nah.
Oh, I read that backwards. I apologize. What people loved, what we would complain about if it came back is how I. Never mind. I'm stupid. Ignore me.
Oh.
It works either way.
All right. Question 2 is: would you rather fight?
Wait, whoa! You didn't answer a question, did you?
Yeah, I don't really have an answer for this one.
Whoa! My man makes the questions. Come on.
Yeah, bro, I make the questions. I don't answer them. Come on, get with the program here. Did people complain about shockwaves?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did, right? All right. Well, I'll say
like,
shockwaves.
Not initially, because like at the start, people were like, "Oh, this is just fun mobility," but then we realized the havoc you could cause with it. Then it just became a nightmare. Just before anyone gets there, the shockwaving through people's boxes from one box away is my strategy. I made the video on that. Everyone's doing it now. I made the video on how to do that. Just put it out there. Everyone's doing this. Cypher PK made that's Cypher classic. I was like, no.
That's the Reiss classic.
The Reiss classic. You made a video on my post.
All right. Question 2 is: would you rather fight Ocean, Jules, or Kit? Oh wait, sorry. I read this wrong. Would you rather fight Ocean, Jules, and Kit, or 5 squads of Marauders?
I'd go with the Mythic people. You're dying to those Marauders. There is no shot you're making it out of 5 squads of zombies. Like, that's just not happening.
Clearly, Taylor has never landed at a Mythic POI in his life. Not a chance. I'm taking the Marauders every day. I've only the zombies. That's the one. I've today. It was probably the first time they've ever damaged me ever. I feel like they're really annoying, but like they're not OP. You can deal with them pretty easily if you just get a bit of distance. When they get in your box, it's annoying. I land Fortilla every single game in solos. I have died to Ocean so many times on her own. When I'm 200 HP, she can just beam you like nothing. Kate can one pump you from 150 HP. I'm keeping them. I'm keeping my distance from them. I'm going Marauders any day.
I don't know, man. Sometimes when the Marauders pull out the hunting rifle and they lock onto you, you're kind of done for.
Bro, it's worse when they just throw stinks.
Yeah, the stinks, and then the RPGs come in and.
We had one where they just RPG'd themselves earlier, so I'm not, I'm thinking that I'm gonna take them any day over the Mythic bosses.
I think I'd go with the Mythic people, to be honest. All right, which Fortnite skin? This is courtesy of Taylor, by the way. Which Fortnite skin would you like to have dinner with?
That is the most casual question I've ever seen in my life. Did you read this on Fortnite BR?
No, this is a legitimate question. Who do you want to have dinner with?
I don't even know any of the names of the skins.
Levin knows the question.
Levin knows the question, not this question. I don't know. Kit, he looks crazy. How cool would be having a dinner with a robot with a cat on its head?
Oh my god.
That's all I got. I don't know any of the other names. Taylor has had this question forever. Well, he needs to answer then, surely, as well.
Yeah, well, Jordan goes first. Or I could use his excuse of, I made the question, so I don't have to answer that.
True. Loser fruit?
I knew you were going to say that one. That's why. Mainly because I kind of thought of that one, too. So.
Hey, you could just throw Ninja out there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Dude, the John Wick skin. That guy's definitely got some fucking stories to tell.
You won't make it out alive. That's the thing.
What do you mean? He's on my team. We're having dinner together, bro.
You didn't say it's friendly or not. So.
If he accepts dinner, I'm assuming it's kind of friendly.
All right. Let's open it up to some questions from chat to wrap this one up.
I'll scroll up a bit first, see what they got. People be asking as we go.
Bella EU asks, "What do I want to ask?" Thank you for that question.
Aaron really puts in the chat, will Reiss ever stop getting headshot snipe? Just in case anyone's wondering, his nickname on my Epic is Snipe Bait. So the hypocrisy of him asking, will I ever stop getting headshot sniped is incredible.
I'm sniper magnet for my trio, so I feel that.
Levin asked Reiss, "Who's the best analytics guy in the community?" Come on, come on, man.
I mean, that's easy. It's Arcane, you know. That's gotta be one up. Come on.
Let's go. We did it.
Best
opinion on Arena as a rank system. I mean, that'd be nice, but I don't think we're ever gonna see that. That would go away from Epic's, open qualifying tournament and anyone can play, anyone can compete, anyone can win, like mindset. So I don't ever see that happening.
No, ever. Neither do I. It's like Arena's been exactly the same for I don't know how long, a year. Whereas ever since it came out, it's really not changed. They've changed the points to have a couple more zeros at the end of it. And that's it. That's really the only way. They've never changed the solo point system apart from when they did that, and it's basically the same. It's the games are always dead, and that's clearly how they still want it to be. So I'm trying to figure out, like, clearly this is how they want Arena to look like. I don't know if they want it to be stacked because, I quite clearly see that they don't want it to be stacked. They want it to be easy or dead so people can get placement points and rank up. I don't think they'll ever put a real rank system in. If they were gonna, they would have done it by now. You'd think. You never know, but.
Well, not the hype nights clearly show that they don't care about who's in champs, who's in contend.
Yeah,
I'm at it. I made it to champions before the hype night. So, just a proud moment. There we go. New season. Only took too many games, but there you go. But yeah, it's rubbish.
Like Grace asked, best layer to play, height, mid ground, or ultimate low. I mean, height. It's extremely powerful, especially in trios where you have so many materials that like you could just tarp however long you want, and you're pretty much not going to run out of mats. And you can get like multiple angles on people down low. But yeah, for me, height. If you could learn how to do that, then you could secure wins more often than not if you do get height.
Yeah, I mean, the answer is always going to be height's better, but it depends on the meta and what game mode you're playing, because you're going to win from height most times. Like, whoever controls it for the longest, but when you take it and what point in the game, it obviously really determines what is the strongest. Because if you're playing solos, 5th zone, height is not going to be the strongest, because rotating, you're never going to make it to the end game from height at that time without getting knocked. Right now in trios, you can stay on height from 5th zone because there's a lack of RPGs and because you have so many materials. If you've managed to keep maxed mats up until 5th zone, you can pretty much tarp all the way in and you're fine. Assuming no one can test you or you don't get grenade launcher down in the 8th zone, which is most of the time it goes down. But it's like, height's always going to be better, but whether or not you should go for it is a whole other question, because if you're on a mid-ground or low-ground layer, quite far from height, they're super aggressive on it. You have no tags on them. You're never going to be able to get it. Unless you have a strategic play, you're not going to be able to get it. So you may be on a good layer already. The best layer is just the layer that doesn't have anyone else on it and is in second height.
Yeah, I echo hype. And if you think the impulse launcher is that big of a deal, just play 3 separate layers. It's just the best way to combat it. GG's.
100%.
Just tarp on float 1 bit of wood, no matter your layer. You're fine.
Yeah, just 3 of them. 3 separate layers. Chilling.
Now
try and shockwave that.
Compared to what it was last season with like RPGs, miniguns, all that nonsense, the shockwave launcher is nothing.
Yeah, it's just annoying to kill. It's like whoever has it they're just free. It's so free to get to end game.
Yeah.
It's so free to get out of fights. It's like, even if you're like solo against a trio in a fight, you can disengage so easy. You have 18 shockwaves in one inventory slot. It's ridiculous. So it's by far the best mobility for solos. Like, whoever lands Catty and successfully does that in solo F and CS will almost definitely come top 10. I will guarantee there'll be a good Catty player in the top 10, if not winning it. Depends who, obviously. Just because it's so free. Like, you can rotate every zone with it.
I'll clip that and hold you to it. But I agree. What do we got here?
Who is the best trio right now? Terrible question. Do you think that with the cap and kills format coming up, we're gonna have more stack games, or people are going to W key anyway? Honestly,
not getting answered.
I think people are still gonna W key. Like, I just don't see that not happening.
Yeah, but it can't be to the extent that it is without a kill cap, right? We saw yesterday, who was it? Creo, Bucky, and Kanata had a 58 kill win to start the tournament in Lockie's Cup. Like that, they're not gonna kill an extra, 38 players for no extra points.
Yeah. I mean, even players in trios, it's slightly different. But like, a 20 kill win, if you're getting a 20 kill win in a good lobby, you're definitely keying at some point. It's like, you're not just picking up 20 impact frags. No one, that just doesn't happen unless you're just the luckiest and most skillful people combined at the same time. So it's like, I think for trios, a 20 kill cap is really good. And I feel like that will stop a bit of W keying, but like, opens is still going to be dead. There's still going to be players who are just better than other people who will just get to 20 kills. They'll W key to 20 kills and then go to endgame and they'll get more there. So it's going to stop people getting 40, 50, but 30 still going to happen. And it's like, in that endgame, you still want your refreshes. So they're still going to get more elims there. So I do like the idea, but it's like, I think it's never going to make games really stacked.
Yeah. The other thing is that it'll affect those players at the top, like really, really good players. But most of the time, you're getting in lobbies with players who aren't dropping 20 bombs all the time. So it's not going to affect most teams, and they'll probably just play the same way as a result of that. So, yeah, it may affect some teams. I don't know if it's going to affect the tournament as a whole.
Yeah, I feel like but it needs to scale, because I think for solos it's 20 as well. And like, how many people drop 20 bombs in solos?
Yeah,
like, pros really.
Yeah, and it's really, I mean, I think 10 would be good, because how many times do people get over 10? Maybe even 8, but I don't want to. Maybe it's just guessing really at that point. I think that's probably too low. But like, 8 kills is doable without W keying. 10, it's not as likely in a solo game unless you're just a hyper aggressive end game player anyway. But yeah, they need to work with the skill caps, but I do think they're a good idea at least.
Yeah. And senses, sorry, but like, those questions of who's the best or like what's the best trio are just so like personal opinion, nothing behind them, because we don't even see like regions play against one another. I hate those. Like, please refrain from those questions. You'll trigger me every time.
Opinions on sharks in competitive?
Dumb.
Swimming zombies. I don't like them.
Why do they have so much HP to give you such crap? I don't understand. They have like, I don't know how much it is. It's a couple hundred, yet they don't give you anything decent when you drop them, unless you have a gold one, which is rare enough as it is. They're just stupid, and they keep jumping through my build fights and annoying me. However, I was losing a fight really badly earlier, and a shark just jumped through and killed him. And I was like, all right, cool. He was absolutely.
Now, would we rather that or mechs? Because I'm sure
sharks.
that's kind of like Epic's way of like, okay, we can throw this random thing in the game that can completely change a fight and let the lesser skilled player win it.
Yeah. Either way, dumb.
Best utility item in the game.
Chocolate Lancer, yeah. Non-mythic. Peppers.
That's my answer.
Definitely. Yeah, I find like, because I drop it what do you call it, Fortilla, and I've not looked at enough of other people's solo gameplay yet. I'm not sure how viable they are to take up a slot, because when I'm there, I get 2 mythics, you get the Chug Jug and the Og, and then you got like minis, and let's be real, it's a P90 meta, so shotgun P90. So it's that kind of moment where I'm like, I don't know why I want to drop for a Pepper, but in these stacked games, I'm 100% like Pepper over SMG at that point. It's like, there's no doubt. And I wish there was some good solo scrims so you can actually VOD review and watch what the pros are thinking, but right now, they're going to be very, very good.
It's definitely more holdable in trios where you have 15 item slots basically instead of 5.
Cabbages. Cabbages are OP.
Bella said he heard they added some mythic weapons back into the game files. Do you think it's possible we'll see more mythic spots as the season progresses? I think well, like we saw the leak of the upcoming map, I guess, when the water fully recedes, and it looks basically exactly like last season's map with like a couple of like minor tweaks. I guess I wouldn't be surprised if they had some sort of storyline where like the mythic people come back, but I think the yacht wasn't there anymore. The rig wasn't really there anymore. It was still rickety rig, and then I think the shark was also kind of weird. So I'm not really sure, to be honest, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I think they could, and that's worrying because I don't want 6 mythics in.
Yeah.
Well, let's not even 6. It'll be 6 mythic spots. So you still have. Would they put 2 grapplers in though? Like that doesn't really make sense to me.
Probably not, and there wouldn't be 2 drum guns.
Minigun.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah. Oh God, I'm hoping they only update it in the game files so that they can put it in creative. But most of the time, what we see in leaks is our worst nightmares, so it'll probably be back in the game.
You want to do 1 or 2 more and wrap this bitch up?
Yeah, I'm just scrolling down in chat.
Enough people talking about how Levin's amazing. You gotta just skip right past that,
Bro, all these are meme questions. Like Levin saying, "Who's the coolest person in the community, and why is it Levin 2K?" People are saying thoughts on the charge gun. We kind of talked about this a lot last week. I think. I mean, I hate using it personally, but I think it's interesting because pretty much everybody is holding it right now because they think that's like the optimal weapon to hold. But I think that leaves a lot of opportunity open to use other weapons and take advantage of the weaknesses of the charge. Like, when they have a charge, they're not making quick edits and like flick shots at you. So you could take that opportunity to just get in their box with a P90 or with attack and just kind of like get in their face, because most of the time that's difficult for them to deal with because they don't have time to charge up their shotgun. Controller with the P90.
Let's go.
So yeah, I think people should take a little bit of time to play around with other weapons. Even though I know tack is super weak right now, play around with it. See if you could try to use the weaknesses of the charge shotgun to your advantage. Because I think there are some opportunities there. What do you guys think about it?
I think we're just waiting for people. So there's certain people, definitely pros, that know how to do the right-handed peeks where you can't even see them and shoot people. And that's going to be abused to hell. And that's a huge problem. Other than that, like the charge, I don't necessarily mind it. I don't see why we needed it. But that, at least the right-handed peeking because you could do it through windows, you could do it around walls. And I'm slowly learning how to do that where I don't even need to expose myself to get shot and can hit people with the charged shotgun. And that is a huge problem, especially when it comes to comp events. And piece control is becoming even more of a factor now because of that.
Mm-hmm. I think it's pretty clear that Epic wants not to have the pump in the game. They clearly have something against having the pump in. This is obviously the second time they've removed it. They knew the whole backlash that was there last time when they put the combat in, but yeah, they're still going to do it again. So it's like, we have to try and, like, people who want the pump back, so do I, but it's probably not going to happen if it's going to, like, for a while at least. So you got to get used to the shotgun meta as it is. Charge, I hated it when it came out. I made a great little tweet on it, popped off, fantastic. What we talked about earlier, low quality content over high quality. But it's like, it's that kind of thing where you've got something that does so much damage, but it's so clunky to use at the same time, where it's like, yeah, you have to 100% change how you play because of it. And it's like, it has its strengths. Obviously, right-hand peeking is the biggest one, where you're really, like, you have to just take angles with it to be able to get in. And being able to either do that or scroll wheel reset is, like, hugely, hugely beneficial. Because that thing hits so hard. If you get hit back by that, you've just lost 150 HP or something like that. Yeah. I think it's really well balanced in terms of the damage. Like, when I have a green one, I know I can hit someone really well with it. Mm-hmm. And even, obviously, the mythic one's kind of dumb. It's definitely probably the most busted gun right now. But, like, the lower tier ones, I didn't feel like when I used to have the pump where it would just hit something, I'd just be like, it just tickle them. I'm like, well, that's useless. When you hit with this, I know the green I can hit, 140 constantly if I hit a good shot, obviously, and not feel frustrated. And it's like, there is weaknesses to it, like you said, where you can have the tac, where you can just run in their box, SMG, etc. So it's like, being able to use the tac and the charge right now is going to be hugely beneficial, because you're not always going to have just the charge. So you need to be able to play against people who have either one. So I kind of like it. There you go. Long answer, short.
Let's take 2 more questions. Thoughts on so many new orgs joining, like Wasp, picking up Crims and Eclipse, and then not being able to pay?
I like that orgs are trying to get in. I like that they're trying to branch out. Obviously, they're trying to make money themselves. They're a business fundamentally, which is what I feel like a lot of people forget about. They're trying to make money out of this. And I feel like a lot of them probably aren't scams. Some are. Some notable ones have been hugely scammed. But it's that kind of thing where you clearly see the intention, but they probably aren't business minded. I feel like a lot of the people who set this up are probably gamers who don't have a business mind, and they don't really understand how it's going to work. When they realize the amount of money they're paying out and the cash flow problems that gives them, where they don't have any return on their investment for months down the line, where they'll get a small percent, maybe years, exactly, where they're really looking for basically exposure for themselves so they can get external funding, or taking what people seem to be confused about is that orgs take percentages of your comp winnings. That's how sometimes they make money. It's a contract. It needs to benefit both people. And it's like, I feel like they just don't understand how they've not thought about it in the long term. It's like they need to be self-sufficient first, and then they're investing in the long run. It's like, if you have a couple £1,000 or dollars, wherever you are based, you're not going to be able to run an org for a year where you may not have really any positive cash flow at all. So it's that kind of thing where I feel like a lot of these people are just inexperienced and not necessarily scammers.
Yeah, we see that with like major orgs too. There's a lot of orgs that aren't running for a profit. Like Luminosity is owned by Enthusiast Gaming, and in the first quarter they posted a loss. So, even the biggest orgs we talk about aren't exactly the best examples of how to get into this to make money. It's a long-term investment, and people see it as a potential to own like a sports franchise, but that's not going to happen overnight. Like, that's going to take years worth of work, investment, and that's kind of like why I appreciate seeing Enterprise Gaming come into the scene, because I think they've done it the right way. They're investing a ton of money up front, understanding that they're probably not going to see any money anytime soon. But if we invest in this, build this up, and they're more of like a community-minded organization, that'll help build an org and make them successful in the long run. So, like Reiss said, I don't understand how some of these guys get into this thinking they can just get away with it. But at the same time, it's probably just ignorant more than trying to scam people.
I think it's these, it's basically a glorified Instagram clan. That's it. But they have like £2,000, and they're like, "Hey, we can do some stuff together. We'll help each other out," and then it doesn't work because they have not actually thought it through. They just think, "I want it. I want to own an org." You know, it's like if you look at like FaZe, for example. How much of their income do you really think is from players playing Fortnite or playing any game in terms of actual tournament winnings? It's like their stuff comes from their brand because they've grown it over so long, over multiple different streams. And that's what these companies need to do. But it's like, that's a long endeavor. That takes a long time to do it.
Yeah. Like 100 Thieves is pretty much an apparel company that like signs streamers as like a marketing campaign, pretty much. And it's like a smart way to go about it for 100%. FaZe kind of does that as well. Yeah. But yeah. All right, last question. What's your favorite solo spot so far this season?
As I've only landed Tortilla, I'm going to go with that. I've basically landed there in every single game. But it's like, solo spots this season suck because the map is so full of water. Like, again, I've not watched a lot of pro solos yet, but even just in my own experience, in the old map or the old season, you could land somewhere uncontested pretty consistently. You know, there was certain spots in the map that you knew you were going to have okay loot, but they're going to be consistent. You can maybe fish, and you can make it to end game. You know, you can get placement points most games if you're a good enough player, and you can avoid fighting in the early game. Now it's like I don't want to say you have to land a POI, but there's so little spots that you can land at that it's like landing at a POI is just, it's almost definitely going to happen for a lot of these people who were landing these other spots. It doesn't mean you have to fight. You can take a corner of that. Like, I have a drop that I never use because I always want to double key people, but where I land at like two of these little islands on Fortilla, and it's like 10 chests. There's a bunch of fruit boxes, potential for the mythic boss to land there, and it may be contested by one person every couple games, and it's like, cool, I can take that. If it was a tournament, I could do this and then disengage. Like, if you've got the card, sure, you miss out on the launch pad, but usually your loot's so good because you've got a mythic AUG and all this other stuff that you're like, I want the launch pad, but fundamentally, if I'll die because there's so many people there, I might as well just leave. And I think that's what a lot of drops are going to end up being in the FNCS Invitational. Well, the water will probably go down by then, but if there was a stacked tournament now for solos, a lot of that would be people landing in POIs, splitting off an area, and then just leaving. Because there's not even looting paths through the water for the most of the times, because you just have to go to an island where someone else will have already looted it, most likely.
Taylor?
I like the yacht. The yacht is a sick play. There's slurps. There's decent chests. The mats aren't the best, but they're doable. And you can, if you know how to play it, you can poop on it. Even me, who's not very good.
I landed a couple times. I did not know how to poop on kids, so I died. Yeah.
I personally have only played, I think, one solo arena game all season. So I can't even really speak on this, but I probably would just land like Pleasant or something that I'm already kind of familiar with. So, but yeah. Well, anyway, that wraps up this episode of the Boomer Talk podcast. Thank you, Reiss, again for joining us. Pleasure having you.
Thank you for having me, more importantly.
If you want to find Reiss's stuff on Twitter, he's at ReissHub. That's on the stream, you can see. On YouTube, ReissHub as well.
Every single social. ReissHub.
Every single social.
YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, which I don't use, TikTok. That's just for promotion, trust me. And even Reddit username. Every single thing is ReissHub.
Yep, definitely check him out. He has incredible, high-quality content. Definitely should have more viewership, more of a following. Taylor at Somebody's Gone on all platforms. And me, One Up Analytics on all platforms. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you stayed this long, appreciate it. If you asked a question in chat and we didn't get to it, feel free to tweet at us. Sorry I couldn't get to all of them. But, yeah, thank you guys for joining. See ya.
See ya.